Welcome to Sacred Spaces, the other side of the story. I am so excited today to welcome a new green to this platform. And you guys, she has her own YouTube channel. She probably may talk about that, but I seen a little bit. She is a postpartum chef and a birth worker. And I know she's a whole lot more than that, but we're gonna start right there. A new welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And I'm going to tell you all, I did a previous interview with Mama Ia Sawu, and Mama Ia leads a dance class, dance healing class for women. And so I was able to meet Anu at that class. She actually came and introduced herself to me. And so I am excited, Anu, to welcome you to Sacred Spaces, the other side of the story. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Queen, for having me in your space. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I do live in a city and we will hear remnants of city life. I'm sorry in advance, but thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Yes. I wanted to start with because when we talk about you being a chef, a postpartum chef, and a birth worker, but I've never actually heard of a postpartum chef. So if you could just share with us a little bit about what that is and what you do. Obviously it has to do with helping moms and how you help.
It's just someone who focuses on the nutritional aspects of the mother and the newborn baby. So in whatever way that the mother needs assistance, whatever her needs are, like if she needs to build up her iron, if she needs blood building herbs, if she's having trouble producing milk on her own. So it's just really focusing on fully nourishing the mother. And while you're fully nourishing the mother, the hopes are to fully nourish the infant. So based off, it's tailored. It's not, it never looks the same for each mother, depending on what those needs may be. And whatever their cultural background is, I try to respect people's culture and their wishes based off of what they need um, specifically to them. So there's a lot of like warming foods that we focus on, like a mother who gives birth during the winter months. You want to definitely focus on warming the body, keeping the internal warm. So yes, so a postpartum chef is someone who shows up for a mother after birth and makes sure she gets all her nutritional needs met through the food that she's eating.
Okay. It's so interesting because I don't think I've ever heard it said that way before. I literally picked up my pen and paper when you began to speak. But you said you talked about warming foods to make sure internally she's warm. And you said,
Yeah.
like during the winter months. So I can you talk to us about what that looks like and even what do you mean by warming foods?
So right now, we have a lot of squash, a lot of root vegetables, and so you would turn those things into like soups, depending on what their what their some mothers are plant-based, some mothers aren't. So if a mother is not plant-based, then she would be drinking a lot of bone broths, a lot of herbal teas, and a lot of fresh juice,
Oh,
especially if she's not able to produce milk right away. So then we'll start juicing a lot of different fruits to help with her ducts opening up so she can produce milk on her own. Um, you know, there'll be herbs, of course, that we will put into some teas that we're making for her to produce some milk. If she lost a lot of blood during the birth, then we would use some blood building herbs for her. But right now, so I just want to go back a little bit. In the past, we didn't have special names like postpartum chef. You just had a family. You had an elder, you had a great grandmother, a grandmother, a great aunt, or, a neighbor that has had some wisdom, has had some births under her belt, has taken care of some women after birth, and they knew exactly what to do. They knew what herbs to go out and get what was in season, or what to make, and how to support a woman so she's not feeling like she had to get up out of bed, leave her home, go grocery shopping, come back, prepare meals while she's still trying to build up her energy. So now today we have things like a postpartum chef because families are not what they once were. A lot of people don't live in close-knit communities. A lot of people live in cities. A lot of people work. So even like, a lot of older people who may have retired because of the cost of living, they're going back to work. So now that their children are having children, they really can't stay and take care as they would have in the past because they have to take care of themselves to eat because of the cost of living. So now you would hire someone like myself to come in and step up and provide those needs. But back in the day, it was just a family member who had the time and the wisdom to provide. So yeah.
Thank you for just even taking the time to back up and say that this is how we naturally lived, right? That it's our family that really performs this function. Because when I'm talking about sacred spaces, I'm talking about healing spaces for people of African descent, no matter where we are in the world. And so to hear a young woman like you come with this level of wisdom, I wanted to inspire others that are older and younger than you, right? Um, to begin to share, because I know there are a lot of our family members that have some of that wisdom that you have shared, but they're not oftentimes surrounded by people who understand them or support what they do, because they may be more focused on, I have to survive, I have to work, I can't do this and that. How do I juggle all of this? And yet we're coming back into, we have to create that sacred space. You create sacred spaces, not just for the mother, but for the baby. And I'm sure the fathers, because when you take that burden off of the mother, it gives the father space as well. So you're actually nurturing the entire family.
Family.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's more of a holistic approach. Uh, sometimes when people are hiring a birth worker, depending on what their needs are, um, you can get a lot of single mothers hiring a birth worker because they don't have the support. And then there's another side where you get the family hiring a birth worker because it's a whole family unit that needs support. It's not just the mother, but it's the husband also helping him, guiding him, not stepping on his toes or trying to take over what he feel his duty is, but just adding some support to that, you know. And I'm so thankful that now we are in a time where both parents can get maternity leave because before
Yeah.
it was just the mother.
Yeah.
Now they have, depending on where you work, now the husband of the partner has maternity leave as well. Um, because most likely when you're doing postpartum care, uh, if you can, you will want to provide at least three 3 to 4 weeks, and making sure that 40 days, 30 to 40 days,
Mhm.
the mother is able to not exert too much energy. She can stay in her room, keep her head covered, keep her feet covered, get someone, if you're not skilled, to do bone binding and belly binding.
What was
Just
the
these are
first thing
different
you said?
steps.
You said bone binding.
Yes,
What does
yes.
that mean?
The closing is called, it's a closing of the bone ceremony. It's an indigenous practice where
Okay.
you're, yes, you're closing up you're closing up the bones, closing up the parts of the body that may have been opened during that initiation, and making sure that a lot of people don't know, if you don't take care of yourself after the first 30 to 40 days of after birth or during your pregnancy, it shows up in your 50s and your 60s
Wow.
as arthritis, all types of like um, different, I don't want to say autoimmune diseases, just because you didn't have the support or you didn't know better.
Mhm.
So there's different ceremonies that takes place to help. So when you are an elder, when you become an elder, you're not broken down.
Wow.
You're strong.
Yes.
So if I look at in my family, the women that were in the mountains that had their babies in the home, and now that they're elders, they are upright, they're standing upright. They are taking care of themselves. They look strong. They don't have autoimmune diseases because they have taken certain steps during that process, during their childbearing age and the postpartum aspect, they were taken care of. And you can see women who didn't have that support, and when they get into the 50s and 60s, having autoimmune diseases, and a lot of them don't really know where it comes from until they probably run into another holistic doctor or some type of holistic practitioner that asks them questions, and they realize my body never closed properly.
Oh.
I never got the nourishment I was supposed to get. I only had a week after birth and I went right back to work in the cold, in the winter, a
Mhm.
lot of things, because you don't see it right away.
Mhm.
If you don't see it right away, you don't know what's happening to you. But over time, you get a chance to see what has taken place because you didn't get nurtured, you didn't get taken care of, your bones didn't close, you didn't eat the right foods. You probably was eating fast food or something like that.
Yes. When you were talking about closing the bones, I pointed to my head. I thought you were talking about the baby. I know the baby has a soft spot.
Oh
So
no.
I thought that I didn't realize you were talking about the mother when you were talking about buying, what do you call it? Closing the bone ceremony.
Yeah, I was talking about the mother, but there are things for the babies as well, like certain massages that you would do for the baby in the soft spot, and making sure that their digestive system is working and the circulation in the body is proper. Those are like new infant massages that you can do, but the closing of the bone ceremony is for the mother. It's a sacred space that you create, and it's it, it's something that you would have to see. It's kind of hard to describe,
Hmm.
but it's a very important ceremony, for mothers.
Wow. So when you talked about like in your 50s and 60s you can get autoimmune diseases. What type of diseases are those?
The most common is arthritis.
Oh, okay.
Arthritis because there's inflammation that when your body is inflamed during this process, sometimes, things just don't go back the way they should have,
Yeah, yeah.
depending on a C-section, depending on certain, tears,
Hmm.
and, certain things can happen during the process. And if you are not keeping your body warm and filling your body back up, because you lose a lot, sometimes you lose a lot of blood and a lot of minerals and nutrients. You lose a lot of these things. So that's why I mentioned about keeping your head warm. Like in the Korean culture, you keep your head warm. You don't even wash your hair for like 40 days.
Wow.
You keep your socks on. You stay in your room. You just stay warm, Keep your body closed because your body has opened up on a spiritual level. It's not just a physical thing that you can see, but on a spiritual level, you have opened up so many different chakras just to give birth, just to have this new being come out. And if you're traumatized during that process, if you're traumatized after that process, you don't get the proper healing. These things can affect you and your child long, into the past. But because it's something that is the unseen. A lot of people don't pay attention to it. A lot of it is mental. And, a lot of times people don't have uh, trustworthy people to talk to or just to pay attention and take care of you. Um, and that's kind of something that I'm glad that the birth workers, there's a lot of us coming out to support. But there has been a big gap where there wasn't any support. So um, I'm just glad that there's a space, sacred spaces like your platform, that other women are recognizing. And it comes from a lot of women who've had children who realized that they didn't have the support that they needed.
Hmm.
So they create spaces where they can provide support for other women so they won't have to feel that way or go through that. For me, I don't have any children yet, but I know that both of my grandmothers, my great grandmothers on both sides of my family were midwives. So I
Oh,
know that's something that's in my blood. And during high school or during college, I always happened to be, if a friend was giving birth, I happened to be there, not not coming as a doula, not coming as someone with experience, but I'm always there to provide support, and affirmations. So I just started looking at it. Maybe this is something I should be doing, and then looking at my bloodline, realizing that my mother was born in a house from my great grandmother. On my father's side, my great grandmother was a doula, a birth worker. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something that's in my blood. Maybe this is something I should look at.
this is yeah, I'm learning so much listening to you. And when I think about um how I've heard about maternal and baby deaths in our community, the high maternal deaths in our community. And I remember right here in DC, there was a time where mothers were being told it's not good to breastfeed your baby. You should buy formula. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing. And I thought about these young girls not knowing any different, not having anybody to say, no, your breast milk is the best milk for your baby. There's a way to care for yourself. And then the next thing I heard sometime later was the baby milk was being poisoned. Well, if you were feeding your baby breast milk, then you didn't even have to get caught up in that baby milk being poisoned or not enough baby milk on the shelves for whatever reason. And I never heard what the resolution of that was. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can you hear me? Let me check.
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I just heard.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can.
All right. Perfect. Um, let me see something. Let's do this. Because I want to continue this conversation, right? I want to invite our listeners to come back for part two, where we can continue to receive all of this goodness, all of this wisdom that Anu is sharing with us. We're going to come back to part two. I see the internet connection was unstable, so I want to make sure that we get everything that she has to share, that she has to share with us today. Okay, so I will end it here and just come back in.
Okay.
All right, good, thanks. Welcome back. This is part two of this conversation with Anu. She is a postpartum chef and a birth worker, and she has been sharing some incredible information. So if you are tuning into part two, you definitely want to go and review part one as we continue this conversation here. So, Anu, let's continue. I know you said you wanted to share some things, recipes. Am I saying that right? Recipes or some things the mom can do.
Well, I just remember before we went to the break,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking, you mentioned about the milk and how they were saying that um women shouldn't breastfeed their children, they should rely on the Similac. And I just wanted to speak to that. It's kind of all by design, so you can feed into the system and not be self-sufficient, and take care like every other animal takes care of their child, with their the milk that they produce. They don't go to something else for to nourish their newborn children. So that's just by design. And as you mentioned that, that Similac was poisoned in children, and now we have a lot of adults that have sensitivities, digestive sensitivities, and you don't know where it comes from. It came from being poisoned from the Similac. There's heavy metals in the Similac that goes to the brain and kind of like disrupts the natural learning abilities. Similac can poison the blood. There's a lot of things that can be happening, and because infants can't speak to you in their first early child development, to tell you, this is wrong, or this is hurting my tummy, or this is, blase, blase. You have to basically monitor. And because you think this Similac is something that was given to you by doctors or whatever industry, you think you can trust it. And then later on, you learn that you couldn't. So during my travels, there was a woman who wasn't able to produce milk, and she was like really sad about it. And thankfully there was a woman who also had just recently given birth, so she had enough milk to share with her child, which is normal and natural if there is a woman willing and able to share.
Oh,
So the same woman, basically, I was in Jamaica, and they were ITAL, meaning ITAL is the original word for plant-based or vegan.
okay.
That's a Rasta way of life is ITAL. And so I witnessed them soaking almonds, raw almonds, and taking the skin off because that skin has an enzyme on it that can cause an issue for newborns. So they soaked the almonds, they took the skin off, and they added a little bit of sea moss to this milk that they were blending up for the child whenever the other woman wasn't available. And this was a milk that was high in minerals because it had the sea moss and the other minerals and vitamins that naturally come from almonds. And this child was able to grow and develop with natural milk from another woman and also from a plant-based milk formula that was created because, in the in some situations you don't really have much. So you have to be intelligent. You have to rely on yourself to provide in nature. So in Jamaica, this is what I witnessed. So now I'm in the States and I get a chance to speak to women about how to naturally put milks together if they can't produce the milk. But this would leads me into the herbs where you have things like mother's milk herbs. You have red raspberry leaf. You have stinging nettle. Um, and then you can juice. Like I'm someone who does cold pressed juices. Um, just juicing berries. And when watermelon is in season, that's great because it's a natural hydrator and coconut water. And you can make these juices, make sure that the mother stays completely hydrated. Because I think that when mothers don't really produce, there's some type of blockage going on, but also they're just not hydrated. They're not hydrated enough for themselves, and so they're not hydrated enough to provide for their newborn child. So those teas that I mentioned can help with breast milk. The red raspberry leaf can also strengthen the uterus. Also, after birth, it brings the uterus back to its normal shape, you know. The stinging nettle is a good blood builder. Um, so yeah, and herbs that are good for calming the nerves, like lemon balm, chamomile. Like sometimes children, they have a hard time going to sleep or they might be a little irritable, but chamomile never hurt anyone. Chamomile with a little bit of honey and some lemon balm, that's calming the mother's nerves and also the baby's. So there's simple things that we can do. And sometimes when you're not connected to nature, you just don't know. Like you don't know. But when you have someone who studies a little bit of herbs or herbalist or a doula or postpartum chef, sometimes they have this knowledge to help, close the gap
Mhm.
that may be there for a new mother or, even some women that I've seen that has like two or three children, they still don't really have any knowledge on herbs, or on like how to make their own formulas with certain nuts or uh, different like sea mosses, different herbs and things like that. I don't encourage people to just go and pick things up and do whatever. Do a little bit of research, do some testing, studying, and maybe join some type of women's group or, get a doula or herbalist and get some assistance. But the system seems to want everyone to rely on it. And the more informed you can get yourself to be, the better for yourself and your family.
Yes, I mean, you talked about things I didn't even know. I mean, when they said the baby's milk, like the Similac was bad, I thought they were talking about a batch or certain batches. But I didn't understand that. Did I understand you when you said that they have heavy metals in the Similac or the baby milk?
Yeah, there's been cases where they found heavy metals in Similac,
And when we're talking about heavy metals, what are we talking about? Is it
different forms of metal like aluminum. Aluminum is a metal that can attack the brain. It attacked the fatty cells in the brain. And, aluminum is one of the leading causes of dementia. And and aluminum is in everyone's kitchen. During the holidays, they bake, they cook with aluminum.
so,
And
so literally the
plastics.
foil, literally the particles
Yeah,
from the foil, the actual
yeah,
metal.
yeah, yeah.
How does that get into baby milk? They just add this
Well,
to baby milk?
this stuff is processed. It's processed in a lab. Um, you know, I mean, so much. Even if you look at the label, like a lot of these things are in the label, you just don't because you don't, sometimes these names you don't know how to pronounce them,
Mhm.
but you're just thinking that you can trust because you might see FDA approved, or you might see things that make you think that you can trust, or you might just be tired. A lot of people are tired and they don't take the next steps. So if you take some time to read what's on the label and
Labels.
start Googling what you don't know, then you'll see, oh, this has red in it. It has, colors that when you read it, it says this causes cancer, this can cause digestive issues, or these are simple sugars. Like it's certain things that if you don't do your research and you just do it, you just take it and ingest it, feed it to yourself or your children, you don't know. And then like maybe 10 or 15 years later, your child has irritable bowel syndrome or IBS or or some type of mental thing going on. Um,
Is
yeah.
are there ways that you know of to clear heavy metals from the body, like for the mother and even for the baby? Are there herbs and things that you can take that clear that you know of?
Yeah, so anything green, um, green vegetables, green herbs, cilantro is
Mhm.
known for getting rid of heavy metals out of the body. Um,
And
there's
that's taking
another
it raw. That's just taking it raw, right? Like
You
in
can
a
drink it,
salad or
you
something.
can boil some water and then steep the cilantro in it
Oh, okay.
and drink it as a tea. Or you can just eat a lot of cilantro, put it in your salads, put it in your soups, put it in, or just eat it. Cilantro is tasty. It's really good. You can add it to your avocados, Adding it to something that has fat is a good thing, but it's also good to just drink it as a tea as well. But there's another one. Um, I can't think of the name right now, but I'm pretty sure it'll come to me. It's a powder. It's a grape powder that you can drink, put it in a smoothie.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times when you're dealing with herbs or something natural, people don't have the patience with themselves or the herb to work. It's not something that's gonna you pop a pill and then 2 days later you're gonna rid your body of
Oh,
20
say that.
years
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
of 20 years of having aluminum toxicity.
Mhm.
It's gonna take you a long time to get this out of your system. You just have to be consistent and practice every day, being intentional about now putting things in your body that will help eliminate that aluminum. It's not going to happen overnight because if you've been doing it for 20 to 15 years or more, it's no way that a herb is going to be able to take care of that within a week. You could even take baths with bentonite clay, Epsom salt. Um, you know, there's a lot. Soaking your body in these bentonite clays, um, and charcoal. Taking activated charcoal takes poison out of your body. But like I said, you have to be patient with yourself and with nature to help you get rid of it.
So where would you get something like activated charcoal?
You can get that from your natural, you can get that from any type of uh Whole Foods store,
Oh, okay.
Mom's Market, Whole Foods. I like to call them whole paycheck because they take your whole check.
Yeah.
Sprouts.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know if Trader Joe's have it, but I know Sprouts, Moms at Whole Foods, they might have these things.
Okay.
You could also make your own charcoal as well. It's just burnt wood, you
Really?
know.
You know how to
Yeah.
do that? To make your own charcoal that you can soak in?
Yeah, it's basically after you have a fire, you have charcoal. You have the burnt residue,
Hmm.
this ash.
Yeah,
You can use it to grow plants. You can use it on your body, your skin. Um,
I didn't know that. Never heard that. Wow. So, I was writing what you were talking about. So the Epsom salt, did you say bentonite or bentonite clay?
bentonite clay.
Bentonite clay, activated charcoal or charcoal. If you soak in those types of things, it can pull the toxins from our body.
Yes.
Okay. And again,
Yes.
it's not like overnight, right? We're not talking about an
No.
overnight thing. We're talking about really, it seems to me like if we're talking about cleansing the body, we're talking about a lifestyle change because why would you go through all of that and then put the same junk, you know, in your body? It's not like a diet.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This would definitely be a lifestyle change. Like this is you making up your mind that you want to have a different relationship with your body, yourself, your children, your environment, and make it a lifestyle and do your best to be consistent with it. Because, it unfortunately, if you want to do better, you have to pay for it. You want to eat organic food, you got to pay for it. You want to you want to do better, you want to eat better, you have to pay for it. If you want to eat cheap, there's a lot of options. There's all these all these fast food stores, you know.
And you
It,
pay for it.
yeah, you have, and it might seem like it's cheap in the beginning, but 5, 10 years from now, you'll pay for it with gout, with diabetes, with high blood pressure, with your eyes, your vision diminishing, digestive issues. You definitely have to pay for it, one way or another. But it used to be a long turnaround, but now you can see the effects probably 5 months from now, a year from now,
I
you
think the
know.
way they have the way they have poisoned the food and the water, the atmosphere, just everything. It's amazing that our bodies can withstand, I think, this level of assault. That's and the babies.
Fortunately and unfortunate, the fact that we have melanin in our bodies helps us a lot.
Oh, talk about that a little bit. How does it help?
Just having melanin and what the sun does for us, a lot of you just get a chance to see how society would like to play tricks on you. And I see a lot of black and brown people running from the sun and thinking that the sun can give them skin cancer, but it's the chemicals that you're putting on the skin and the food that you're eating that that that's bubbling up, inside of your system. And but it's the sun activates the melanin. The sun heals, like if we can be intentional during the summertime and spending time in the sun and sun gazing, and you know we can really do some healing, but we're running away from the sun. um a lot of people pay a lot of monies. Melanin is almost, I think, a little bit more than the price of gold, you know.
Saw that. I saw that.
Yeah.
And isn't
Yeah,
melanin
so
only produced in the human body? Where are they getting the melanin? Right. It's produced within our bodies. So when I saw that on the shelf some time ago, I remember one of my friend's daughters asking that question, how can they sell melanin when melanin is produced within our bodies?
yeah, so we have a if you look at the elders from that used to be farmers that would work in the field from sun up to sundown, the life expectancy, they live the long life, you know. And if you put myself even in that field from sun up to sundown,
Yes.
I don't think I would be able to I don't know, but we're not built that way anymore. Um, but that sun, the sun and that melanin getting that charge that to energize the body, it's like a battery. You get it energized and then you're sweating. So even if you had toxins in your body during that work period, you're sweating it out, and then you get your rest when the sun goes down. Now you might work under artificial lights, and then you go outside and then there's no sun, and then you're eating fake food, and then you're not even sleeping properly because you're looking into these screens probably for hours, and then you don't rest when you're supposed to rest. There's no way that, our bodies right now, the way they're developing, the way they're adapting, we don't really know what's to come with our natural development. Um, but like I said, thankfully for us, we have melanin. Unfortunate people are, you know, they're trying to take our melanin. They're trying to take away the sun. They're trying to dim the sunlight, Unfortunately, we have these screens. Right now, we're using it as a learning and a connecting, we're connecting through the screens, but if we're not using them properly, they could also be a detriment to our eyes, to our thyroid, as these light, like I said, the unseen world, because we can't really see what the light is doing to our eyes and what it's doing to our thyroid. Like all of this is exposed to the light.
Mhm.
We have things on our covering us. Luckily, if you're intentional, you have cotton and natural
Material.
material on your body. But if you don't, that's also another issue. Like we have to really be thinking about what we're doing. And right now, the system doesn't, it promotes not thinking, it promotes just doing, So,
It's interesting that you said black and brown people are running from the sun because they first tried to make us feel bad about the color of our skin, as if this was something bad. And yet everything in nature is melanated. Everything that is created naturally has has melanin. And believing the propaganda and not knowing anything about how God created us to be, we're believing the so-called scientists, and we're running. I know the white man and the white woman, they have to run from the sun because they will get skin cancer. Their skin will bubble and boil and burn, because it's not natural to the planet. If it was, that wouldn't happen. But this is our skin, the melanin in our skin is literally a protection. And you're saying the very thing that is natural that allows us to have day, just like behind you, day and night, right? Um, that very thing that powers life on the planet, we're running. That even sounds ridiculous. What I just said. What powers life on the planet we're literally running and hiding from?
Yeah,
Besides,
that lets you know that a lot of us are not in our right minds. You know, mental illness doesn't just look like schizophrenic. It doesn't look like all these other ADHDs or autism. Mental illness is running from the sun. Mental illness is not loving yourself. Mental illness is choosing McDonald's over making a meal at home. You know, like it's not, you know, I understand because I don't always eat at home either, but if I'm eating outside, I'm doing my best to choose something that is preparing real food, you know,
and it's
not
terrible we have to talk about real food. Because at what point did we ever consider that we could actually consume something that would not be food? I think if people even think about that, it doesn't even make sense. Like, can you drink plastic or eat plastic? And yet I know there's plastic in our
we
food
do.
because of the toxins in the atmosphere.
We do. Before there was no separation from the food. The food came from the yard to the plate. Now the food is coming from a field that doesn't produce real grass, real grain, and then it goes in through a system, a machine, and it gets processed, and then it, it travels, and then it goes to the house. So the food, even I read something that said the eggs that we're getting are not like coming from the farm to the market. Some of the eggs that people are eating are like a year old.
Oh, have mercy.
What type of nutrient what type of nutrients is that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even the fruit, like right now, like mangoes are not in season, but because we live in America, we're we're getting mangoes from other places and they're traveling, they're being sprayed, they're traveling, they're under like artificial lights, in trucks from state to state, then they get into the market and then they get into our homes. So I think I posted the other day, like we don't know we don't know what type of foods we're eating, and the food that we're eating don't know us. At least in nature, there's a relationship.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's a relationship.
So profound. The food doesn't know us, and we
There's no
don't.
rela-
Mm.
So there used to be a relationship, you know, like if the food was coming from the yard that my grandmother was growing the collard greens, my grandmother was in the field. She was watering, she was talking, she was humming the food. Plants have intelligence. It knows who you are, you know. And like you mentioned the melanin, but the chlorophyll is plant melanin.
Melanin. Yeah, that's the
That
melanin
pigment.
in the plant.
So exactly. So when we drink that, naturally, that is something that is going into us. Photosynthesis that goes into our body. It goes into our blood. It adds on. But if the food is retarded, then it's no information. We're not getting any information from the food to help us develop and grow. And if we're not moving our bodies, movement is important because you're growing, your cells are growing. It gets excited to move and stretch. So if you're not eating good food and you're not moving your body, you're not breathing properly, a lot of human beings are not functioning as as human. You know, we're kind of I don't want to use the word I just use the word retarded. I don't think that's the proper word to use, but we're going backwards instead of forward.
Oh,
Even if you are someone who considers yourself to be intelligent, you probably have a good income, you know, but the choices, are you making choices to extend your life force? You know, if you're not, then what do you really, you just have income.
wow. So you
And like,
shared.
and that thing about the food,
Mhm.
the thing about the food, not knowing who we are, it's a big disconnect. Even the fish, like they're putting vaccines in the fish. The fish is not coming from the ocean to the market. The fish is going to a it's going to a lab. The lab is vaccinating the fish, and then the fish is coming to the market, and then the fish is going to you. So if you look at, so I'm at the point where I'm at the point where I'm looking at food and I'm just like, you know, I have to make sure that I get a space where I can grow my own food so I could feel comfortable eating because myself being someone that's really into food, I love food. I feel like um I just have a good connection to food. And if I'm looking at my plate, if I'm looking and I'm in the market, it's something that I don't feel good about anymore. And I have to ask myself, what is the solution to that? The solution is me growing my own food that I can trust. Because right now, when I'm eating certain foods, they don't taste the same, they don't look the same, um, don't smell the same. So
Some
there's
don't even have a
something
smell.
going wrong. I don't want nobody else to be between me and my food. So that's my next mission, to figure out how to grow as much as my own food as I can. And not to scare anybody, it's just something to think about. It's just something to think about and, you know, ask yourself these questions because it doesn't matter to some people. Some people don't care.
Mhm.
Some people like to give that much power to someone else. And for those who don't, we have to figure out how to provide and sustain ourselves.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because part of the sacred spaces movement, um, I literally that is one of the things um that is one of the things that we're focused on because it's a space of healing for our people and being able to teach the children and even the adults how to have their own home garden. A lot of people are in apartments. They may not have a yard, but maybe they have a little space that they can set aside where they can grow something. Because you can grow green beans, you can grow tomatoes, you can grow cucumber. If you can get it to the sunlight in some, in some way, we have to start. Like you said, we have to start. So I definitely want to talk to you about that because that is something, when these people start to interrupt the food supply, which they already um have prepared that to come to us, interruption of the
I
food
mean,
supply. Hmm?
the food is weaponized.
Yes.
The food is a weapon against us at this point. If there, if you have chosen not to vaccinate,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I just heard it went out a little bit, but you said if you have chosen not to vaccinate.
if you chose not to vaccinate yourself, which is your own right,
Mhm.
but they found a sneaky way to vaccinate the food to get to you,
Yes. Yeah.
the food is now a weapon, you
Yeah.
know? The food is a weapon. These systems, these hospitals are not all hospitals because I've worked in some hospitals with families that really honored what the mother and the father wanted for their birth plan. But some hospitals don't like birth workers, they don't like doulas, they don't like, they don't deal with midwives. They want to do what they want to do, and if you don't want to abide by that, they'll either kick you out or make you do what they want you to do. So, we have to try our best to become sovereign beings that um we are responsible for ourselves and we know that, and we have to make better choices.
And that's the word, choices. We have to not, and even we choose by default. So thinking that, oh, we're not choosing or we're just letting things be. No, we're choosing by default. And if we have children, what are we choosing for them? Because if we live like this right now, what chance do our children have if we don't teach them anything better, anything different, right? Most people on this planet um, probably were not born in hospitals. And yet there are people who have children at home, and I know they're targeted by their authorities locally. Um, I've even seen where parents had their children taken from them, even if it was temporarily, because they had their children at home. And whatever they were supposed to do, they did. But they don't want, they don't want that. But once we come back to our right minds, we don't have anything to fear. But we have to be in our right. We have to be in our right minds. We can't be running from the sun. We can't be running from what is natural. We have to be able to embrace who we are fully. And like you said, research and learn, because so much misinformation has been given to us. Who we are, our identity, not in religion, but our identity as Black people has been stripped away, but the knowledge is still here. It's within us, and in connecting like this, we're able to bring it back. So we
We
definitely
can't remember. We can't remember because, like I said, the food that we're eating,
is interfering.
there's information. Yeah, there's information in the food. There's information in the air that we breathe. There's information in the sun. There's information in nature. But the further away you get from it, you can't really remember. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not it's certain some people, some children even, if you look at new children, sometimes they're doing things that no one's taught them. They just know. But if you're so disconnected, there's certain things that you miss because you're disconnected. Um, Even like there's some children that are not taking their mother's milk. They're not taking the milk because the mother and the father they've been vaccinated.
Oh, wow.
It's something there's something that they're not even latching on. And they're not gonna talk about those things.
Wow.
But the baby's naturally not there's a just you watch any animal when they come out, it knows there's a scent that it knows to gravitate towards the nipple to get what it needs naturally. But because it's been violated, it's not natural anymore. They won't even latch on. and it's nothing you can do. You can probably do like some type of Dr. Savvy detox, but there's a lot happening in the whole birth world since since the pandemic happened that you don't know about, especially in the birth world.
And I do remember when that thing first came out, how women were talking about their cycles were disrupted, and if they came, I can't remember exactly, but they noticed that if they didn't have that vaccine and they were in the presence of someone who did, they were having different issues. But it was already said that that was to attack the reproductive organs in men and women. Some of those chemicals or whatever they, whatever was a part of that.
But they said it. They said it in the beginning. They said if they told men if you get vaccinated, you have to use two forms
Oh,
of contraceptives. You had to, they even said don't have unprotected sex after getting the vaccine.
really?
If you did, you had to use two forms, two condoms, two to, so if that was the instructions, then someone in their right mind would be like, I'm not going to take this.
Yeah, that
But if someone is feared, if you fear taking away their livelihood,
mhm.
then you would take it. Some people would take it.
And that's what they did. They put so many people in a state of fear of dying. And like dying is a natural part of life, but these people act as if they care. When has the government ever cared? Show me on a day-to-day basis. When has the government ever shown that they have truly considered and cared about the health of the citizens? But as
Right,
soon as something like this happens, we're like, oh, here, to our open enemy, our people, to our open enemy, please
right,
save my life. Like when you talk about having lost our minds, that is completely living in a make-believe world, and then they want to turn around and attack people who actually have some sense of reality and what is actually happening. Um, but it just says, this is a time for the healers to step up. Those of you who know that you're healers in whatever capacity, this is a time to create that sacred space for yourself so you can communicate with your family on the other side with Mother, Father, God, and ancestors and ancestresses so that you receive, like you talk about, the correct information so you know as you move and you have to make these choices and decisions, you're not making it, you're not making choices and decisions out of fear, because fear will get you killed every single time. It will get you, it's not going to it's not a good thing. Because like you said, you know what? If you gave birth to children and you given birth in your 20s, 30s, some in your teens, but you weren't cared for in a particular way, when you get to your 50s or 60s, um, these are the things that you can be dealing with. You can be dealing with what'd you say?
close the door real quick. Can I pause?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to close the door. Give me 1 second.
Oh, sure, yes.
Babe, I'm recording. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Those things happen. Don't worry. Um, yeah, that's That's fine. But I definitely is there anything else you wanted to share? I'm so glad about everything. You've shared so much. Some of the things you talked about I haven't even heard before.
I have to close the door. You came in here with the loud music.
Oh, you still?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. I didn't know you did.
What did you say?
oh, sorry. Sorry. It's okay. It's okay. I was
I
saying,
can't
can you hear me? You look a little frozen to me. Let me check. 1 second.
hear you anymore.
Can you hear me now? Am I frozen? Let me see. Can you hear me or see me? Let's see.
Ready?
Okay. All right. Sorry for the little disruption. Sometimes people step in. We don't we don't expect it. That's fine. This is life. So we're not trying to do things like all perfect and whatever. This is not CNN. This is sacred spaces. So that's part of life. Yes, you wanted to share about creating a sacred space for the mothers.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a birth worker, um, I didn't want to leave the show without talking about how birth workers create sacred spaces in hospitals or at home for mothers during their process of, I call it an initiation. Because nothing would never be the same after you give birth. Um, but in the hospital, so I think it's safe to say that a lot of birth workers would like to encourage women to give birth at home in their own safe space, in their own sacred space, whether it be their bedroom or their living room. And because the home is familiar to you, you have your own shower, you have your favorite blanket, your favorite pillow. But when you're at home, we can come in and create a sacred space by adding the diffuser, dimming the lights, adding some lights, maybe some incense if you're not sensitive to the different incense smells. Maybe bringing your favorite snacks, just making sure the space is cozy, setting up the bathroom, making sure there's extra towels, towel warmers, maybe a projector of like some nature sounds, your favorite music. So the birth worker or the doula, we just create a space for the mother and the father to feel, and the little ones that may be witnessing this new birth. We created a safe space, a sacred space, so this whole thing can unfold in the most safest, most harmonious way possible. Um, and we're also there to give affirmations. We're also there to be a mirror so that to remind this woman that she can do this. Her body's built for this. Her body is able to do the final step, which is the birth part. And just to remind that you have support. You're not by yourself. And at no time is it our job as birth workers to try to tell a woman what she can and can't do. We're just to support. Some women say that they don't want medication, and some women say they do want medication. And even if you are a birth worker who is against medication or against C-sections, we're there to support. We're not there to tell what to do. So if I had it in my heart and mind that a natural birth is the best birth. C-sections are a money grab for doctors. Don't do it if it's not an emergency. I can't push my beliefs on to a mother. If that's what she wants, I have to support her and whatever her choices are, but let her know that she has someone in the room that can hear her, she's seen, she's heard, and she's supported. That's what the role is. And when we do it at home, it's the same thing, but you don't have false lights, you don't have people rushing you, you don't have anyone um, sticking their fingers up inside of you every 5 minutes trying to figure out what's going on. You are able to naturally unfold into this initiation and become new parents or parents for the second or third time in a sacred space. So and we're just there to build the ambiance, build the environment, say our prayers, make sure the ancestors are there. If whatever you believe in, you know, some people are they believe in something else, but you there to support and make sure that you invite the people that are supposed to support you as a birth worker. Like I make sure that I tune in to my ancestors and ask for guidance and support because things do happen, you know, things that you may not accept may not be expecting to happen, but you have to be prepared for the best and the worst. So I like the name of your show, Sacred Spaces, and I just wanted to tie it all in just to give a background of what it may look like for a birth worker to be at home with a family or in a hospital. And our role is to ultimately just support the decisions that that family has made for their birth plan. Um, you know, and the postpartum aspect of it is the same thing. Lighten the load, support, nourish, make sure that they have nutrient dense foods and support warmth and care during that postpartum process. Like mothers that are supported and taken care of become healthier mothers. You know, they're able to give to their child because they're not pouring from an empty cup because they've had support. They've had someone see them, nurture them, understand and take care of them. Mothers that don't get that are pouring from empty cups and they're not really able to pour back into that child because certain things wasn't given to them during the process. They, you know, it's, a lot of things happen, but the ultimate goal for us is to provide that nourishment and that support.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for having me on your space.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming. We have to do this again because there's so much, I want to do something with you where you can even do like I saw you do, demonstrate how to make, I saw you make something with sea moss, the cold pressed drinks, or the things that will help the mothers to release the breast milk, or even simple recipes that they can have to nourish themselves. And perhaps even if they have small children, simple meals and things that they can prepare. Would you like to please, you have to share, how can someone in the audience who may be pregnant, or maybe they have a relative, a friend or relative that's pregnant and they've heard you and they were like, you know what, I want to work with her. How can they work with you? How can they get in touch with you?
A new cosmic birth at gmail.com is my email. Um, a new cosmic birth at gmail.com.
Okay, I'll put that in the message when I send this out.
Unfortunately,
COSMIC, cosmic.
yes.
Okay. Mhm.
I do have an Instagram page, but I'm not good at posting.
Okay.
So it's the Wellness House. I gotta go and look at it because I don't go on there much.
And that's Instagram.
Yes.
Okay. That's all right. I'll put it
It's
there.
the
But thank
Wellness
you.
House
Mhm.
Birthing INST Institute. So our institute is abbreviated INST. It's the
Oh,
Wellness House Birthing Institute. I'll text it to you.
okay. And that's
Yeah.
Instagram. So when I send this out, I'll put that in the Facebook message when I send it out so people will know how to reach you. This
Yeah.
has been such a powerful share. And I'm just going to let you all know she is going to have her podcast. She is going to have her own podcast where she is interviewing other people, but she has so much. You can see just in this two-part series right here, she has so much to share that she definitely, we're going to have her back because there's a lot more, and people are actually hungry for truth and for people who are operating in integrity and authentically. And so, Anu, thank you so much for sharing what you do to create sacred spaces with us. And I know the next time I want you to even talk about, you talked about when a mother gives birth, how we're opened up spiritually first, actually, before that physical birth. It's a process, but it's from that spiritual realm. Because I always say we are the dimensional gateway through which spirits enter into this world legitimately, legitimately enter in. We are that dimensional gateway, and we don't really hear people having that conversation unless we are in certain circles, maybe spiritual circles. But I think we're people are giving birth whether they're in these circles or not. And so that's a conversation that I would love to have with you the next time you come on. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes,
It'd be my honor. Thank you so much for having me and encouraging me to take the next steps on my end. But I appreciate providing the space to share. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you, and take care.
You too.